In this chapter, we are going to cover SAQL. This is the final piece of the advanced editing in the Einstein Analytics product along the bindings. And SAQL happens at the dashboard layer pretty much. So when we talk about SAQL editing, or specifically a SAQL query, we are talking about the SAQL on a step level, where you go manually and edit the step to provide it, or to edit the query to solve the use case you might be dealing with. Now, before we dive into SAQL editing, just as a reminder, from a designer perspective, you should always take a look or stop at the compare table and figure out, or try to figure out things at the compare table. So for example, reminder, the compare table can give you a lot of formulas, not just simple formulas, but also the advanced formulas. And it's always good, even if you know you're going to SAQL, to end up with SAQL, to start with compare table and then switch to SAQL, so at least you have parts of the queries or the filters on different columns or certain things, manipulations, you already have the functions there, and you switch to SAQL and continue editing. So for example, in the compare table, you can always get the running total. So to get the running total is very simple. You just create the step, and you have your group by, you have your metrics, you switch to compare table, and from the drop down of the clone column, editing the clone column, you can get the option for running total. Also, you can get an option for ranking. So if you ever have ranking, remember you can do that within the compare table. Another one is period over period, or change from previous. And another one is the sliding window, which pretty much all of the other functions are based on sliding window. Now remember, with the compare table, you also have the ability to filter different columns on different criteria. As we go through the SAQL this chapter, I'm going to show you a few other tricks also on the compare table that also will help you, again, to simplify the design process. Now for SAQL is pretty much, again, at the query engine layer. So it is higher than the datasets and the ETLT layer. It is in the dashboard, and that's pretty much what we talk about when the steps get executed. They hit the query engine, translates the query, and gets the data and sends it back to the dashboard. So SAQL is pretty much writing the query engine language. And SAQL stands for Salesforce Analytics Query Language. When do you use SAQL? Pretty much when you have some complex calculations you're not able to get through the regular formulas, compare table, or even at the data layer. We are going to cover some of the typical use cases and most of the useful functions that are used in SAQL. Now, just to get you familiar with SAQL, if you look at the bottom query right here, this is a SAQL query. Now, I want you to remember, when we create a step, we go click on the Create Step blue button, and then you select the data set. So this is pretty much the first statement. Load my data set. I create a step, I click on this data set, I choose it, that's load my data set. Then you might go and group by or hit bars by division name. Now you are grouping, let's say my data set has 1,000 rows, 10 divisions, you're grouping by 10 divisions, you're aggregating into these 10 rows out of the 1,000. And then for each row, this is Q, for each Q generate division name. For each one of these, you are generating the row with the division name and the aggregate across the 1,000 rows, whatever you're trying to calculate, for example, the sum of amount or sum of quantity or some metric. And you can also order in the end. Sometimes you will see a filter after the load. That's a good filter. We call it pre-projection, because you don't want to execute, let's say my data set is 10 million rows and you only care about current year. So it's better to just pre-filter it on top for performance reasons. Sometimes you will note people mentioning post-projection filter. So that means after you aggregate, you're tracking something, after the for each generate, you will put another filter somewhere around here. There's one more function less used. I'm just going to mention it. We have a couple of slides on that. Is offset. Offset allows you to send back the records starting from the offset number. So let's say this query returns 1,000 rows, and you say the offset. So by default, the offset is 0. It sends back to 1,000, starting from the first one. If you say offset is 1,000, or let's say the offset is 100, it starts with the row 101 up to the 1,000. So it omits or skips the first 100. Where do you go and check the SAQL? So again, when you're creating a step or you're exploring the lens, you have the option to go to the SAQL mode, this button, SAQL mode, and that's where you go and take a look at the query and start playing around with it, or get familiar, or again start modifying it to get your result. Let's take a look at some of the sample use cases. Now, we are going to start with the data shaping exercise, and this is pretty much pivoting or transposing data. So this exercise goes about, if I had, for example, I have 2 metrics and 1 row. Now look at this right here in the right corner and think about sum of amount. The first one, let's say it's 2018, and the second one is 2019. Now and you don't have a year, so again, think about this as 2 metrics, 1 row, and the metrics are defined by the year name. So this is 2018 amount, 2019 amount. If you want to group for a reason on the year, you don't have a year, so you cannot group by or do something about these amounts because they do not belong to the same metric. They're not under the same column. So pretty much this exercise is going through taking these 2 columns, 1 row, and transposing it to something like this in the bottom left right here, which is 2 rows and 1 column. Now I'm going to switch to the exercise in the environment. These 2 slides provide most of the instructions, but again, I'm going to walk through it, and we are going to use the file from the downloaded file that has the syntaxes. And again, just to clarify this one more time, so I want you to think as if we have this structure. I have, for example, a customer type or account type. And let's say I have customer and I have partner. So this is my title, a field, and I have 2018. I have some metric here, 5K, 6K, and I have 2019, and again I have, let's say, 10K and maybe 8K. I want to take this data shape and switch it, transpose it to something like this. Type, year, amount, and this would be customer partner, and then I have 2018, 2018, 2019, 2019, and get the amounts right here. So I want to take the original shape of the data and switch it to this. And this is pretty much what we can easily do with SAQL. So we are going to go from this format to this format of the data. Let's go to our environment, same one we have been using across these chapters. Go to Analytics Studio. You can just hit create, and let's create a dashboard, blank dashboard. You can save this and call it Transposing Data or SAQL. Transposing Data. Now we are going to create a step. For this step, let's just use opportunity owner account, and let's call it test step. Now, there are multiple ways to do this. I just want to follow the following steps so that the SAQL format, the way it spits out, is easy to read. So what I'm going to do is switch this to sum of amount, no grouping, go to compare table, then add 3 filters. Again, there are different ways to do it, but I just want the format to be nice. So I'm going to add the first filter on, let's say, account type customer. Then add another filter and opportunity type let's say new business. Then one more filter. Again, I'm right here. Add filter on close date, and let's call it previous year, for example. Now I'm going to clone this column, all of it. And in this new column, I am going to switch close date, just click on it, and from previous year to actually current year. All right, now I have my metrics. What I'm going to do is, again, one, account type, opportunity type, close date last year, account type, customer, new business, and this year. Now I am going to edit this slightly, edit this column. I am just going to rename it to last year, the first one, right here. Hit apply. Notice I don't have to close and go back and edit the next column. I can just click on this arrow right here and call it current year. Hit close, and now I have last year versus current year. Now, this is not specifically related to the exercise, but also another tip is to use OR as of now. Future releases will take care of this, but for now, to do OR, for example, the filters right now, they are all AND. So it's customer, account type is customer, and opportunity type is new business and close date. So let's assume the users want account type and, or opportunity type. It's customer or new business. It's customer or new business. The only way right now to do it is, even if you're not going to transpose the data or create new metrics, you do your chart, you do your bars, everything, and then you switch to SAQL. Again, this is SAQL mode. Let's make sure I can zoom in. And as you can see right here, this is the filter for the first column, still with the A. And you can notice here where it says, right here, account type, customer, and type. So this is where we can slightly edit this. I'm going to increase the font a little bit right here, zoom in. I'm going to add these parentheses and change the AND to OR. Same thing I'm going to do on the second query, right here, second column. And by the way, of course, I can use the double pipes too. So it's the same, either this or this. Now it's an OR. So if I hit run query, I'm done with the OR. If I didn't want to do anything else in SAQL, I can always switch back to the bar, and now I have the bar or whatever format I want. Now in our exercise, we still have some more work to do. Notice the structure of the query, load the opportunity. For the first column, filter. For the second column, filter. We're going to talk about the group in a second, but again, let's say it's adding the results together. This is what I care for right here. Result equal, for each result, generate the sum. This is the first column, last year. Generate QB amount as current year. Now remember, we need to transpose this data. So, and these are streams existing in memory. They hold the information. Now the limit here, because we are viewing it, so just as we play around with it, you can keep the result limit on the bottom. Again, this is just for if you are viewing it in the dashboard or from performance perspective. Of course, it's not limiting my calculation against the whole data set, because it's at the end. So you can keep it. If you know your volume of data is not that big, you can take it out, but it is recommended just to keep it all the time in the bottom. But we're going to update the naming right here for the last query. So the first thing we are going to do is create a new stream. Let's say F2 equal. It's going to read from result last year. So for each result, generate. Now I'm creating a new column. If you remember the spreadsheet, this is the new column right here. It says year. This does not exist here. So I'm going back. I'm going to create, this is 2018 as my, let's say, year. Notice the text double quote, the field you are creating, the name of the field is single quote, comma. And I can use the same convention right here, which is sum of which metric I want. I want this one. This is no more existing. This is the new one, year. So single quote, L year, same way it's written here, as amount. This is my new amount, or let's call it my amount. Now, it's always recommended to test each query as you modify it, just to make sure there's no hidden error, or don't wait till the last minute to test it. So let's test this one. I do need to take, so again, just for a brief moment, I'm gonna take this out, else it's gonna just show me result, because it always shows just the last line. So as I run it, now I have this should have been F1, sorry, F1. I have F1, my year, my amount. Great, now I have F1 containing this structure. So same way, I'm going to generate F2 equal for each result. You can copy paste it, by the way, change the values, 2019 as my year, comma sum of current year. Now I'm reading this guy right here, current year, as again I need to name it the same name so they align under each other. Again, I test this, and syntax error for each generate 2019 as my year sum. Right here there's a single quote, and as you can see now, this is just F2. So all result is still there. F1 is there. It only shows me the F2. Now all what I need to do, since F1 and F2 match, they have the same field names, I'm just going to use something called union. So final equal union F1, F2. And now I have my final result, my year, 2018, my amount, and so on. Now I don't have the group by type, the one on the spreadsheet, but it is similar, same concept. And if you want to add the limit 2000, again, if you're dealing with huge queries, you can just say final this time, limit it when it's in the view mode to 2000, run query, and there you go. Oops, again, final limit, notice it's not the result. This should be final right here, because all of these are still existing. So now I have final equal limit. So this is the same thing. Now I'm not stuck to this interface or this table. It's actually always recommended before you hit done in the bottom, before you hit done, always switch back to some chart or whatever chart you want to use. And then once you're done, you hit done and you drag it to the dashboard. Now notice, once you go SAQL, the filter section has to be manual. So if you ever need to come back and add a filter or edit the filter, you have to go back to SAQL and add it manually here. I'm gonna hit done, and this is my step right here. So this is pretty much for the first exercise. Another thing I'm going to cover is editing date filters. So sometimes you might hit this, for example, this use case where I want to know my metric, my amount, current year till from year to date, which means from the beginning of this year till today, versus last year same date. So you can do this with a small editing in the cycle. Again, it's just like the and or. You just have to put your query out there, and then you can do a slight modification for it in the cycle. So for example, if I go back to this chart, or actually let me just build a new one. So let's say I had similarly, let's call it last year same date. So I had sum of amount or count of rows, does not matter. And I wanted to compare this to last year same quarter. So I will go to compare table. Let's say this is add a filter. And the close date is from current year to date. Okay, so this right now, previous year to date, by the way, brings it to till this day, not previous year to last day. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to hit current year to date, add. Then I'm going to clone it. And this one, let me put it a filter that's easy to modify. So I'm going to say maybe previous year. Now again, I'm just doing this so that when I go to SAQL, it's easier for me to modify things. So I'm going to edit this column just again to name it. This is current or year to date. Apply, go to next, and say last year, same date. So now that where I need to go to SAQL, I call them the right names. Let's go to SAQL. Let me zoom in. Go to SAQL right here. You see, the first one says current year to current day. This is good. Now the second one says 1 year ago to 1 year ago. This is not what I want. So all what I need to do is just say current day minus 1 year and not 1 year ago. So now if I run this, this means current year YTD and last year same date. Last year 1 year ago to current day minus 1 year. So those are small editing you can do directly. And again, I will switch back to the bar, and this is where I have it. I hit done, and again, sorry, I hit done, and I have my dates. So just as a reminder, if you have again, another step where you were dealing with dates, and for some reason, or some use case, you wanted to filter by close date, but that close date, let's say it was a mix between quarters and years, or months and years. So for example, if you go again to the date, to the custom, to the relative, notice all of these are, except for today, but most of them are always quarter to quarter. You see, so this is quarter to quarter. Month is month to month, except the case of current day. So for example, if you had to create a filter that is 1 year ago, or from the beginning of this year till today, this is something, or till 30 days ago, if you go back here, let's say I want current year till 30 days ago for some reason. So I cannot, because any time I hit 1 here, it's going to give me a year, or -1 again, or 0, it's going to be current year. So for that, you can keep it current year today, hit add, call this manual date modification. So this step is somewhere here, doesn't have to be on the canvas, it's already in the dashboard. But if you hit Command E and say search for modification, notice that the filter right here says year 0, day 0. This is where you have your chance to, for example, put -30. So it goes back 30 days, which you couldn't do in the UI. And again, and you can even change this to quarter maybe, if you want. And this could be -3 or -1 or something like this. And this will work for you. This will bring you data. Now, in my case, obviously there's nothing here. Let's modify it to something, brings back maybe day. Hit done. And again, just checking for something that can give you, or maybe 30 days ahead. And let me see, maybe -1. Yep, something like this brings data. So again, it depends on your dates in the data set. So that's for modifying days. The next exercise is going to cover a common other use case where it can only be solved again with SAQL. And this is where we focused a lot on trying to avoid multiple data sets on the dashboard, or trying to merge data sets in the data layer, so that if we hit ever the use case of metrics from different data sets on the same chart, that is going to be only solved by using SAQL. So this exercise, for example, takes the cases count with opportunity info. And we know those two data sets are different grains, are different two data sets. We're trying to show, for example, here, the count of, or the sum of amount by the close date of the opportunity, and projecting the count of cases on the same chart. So we are going to use this query to show you how you can use co-group or group to combine the different streams as if It's a similar to a join statement or join concept, because you have the full and you have the right and you have the left. But remember, because it's aggregating, so you are aggregating, and then you can only project, that means quote and double quote, means you can only use the fields that are mentioned in this. So again, this is why it's a little bit different than join, because once you say group Q1 by this and group Q2 by this, only these dimensions can be mentioned in the next statement. Now the metrics can be anything, but the dimensions. So imagine you have 10 dimensions and you're only grouping by 1 or 2, then you cannot see the other ones here. All right, let's go back. Let's save this dashboard and create another dashboard, blank dashboard, and try to get the cases and opportunities. Now, let me make sure opportunity owner and case. Now, you have to have installed a sales app to get case. If not, you have to create it manually, just the case data set starting from case and going up. And the second thing, you need both data sets on the dashboard before you even try to combine them in a third step or in one of those two steps. So both data sets have to be mentioned if there's more than 3 of them for etc. So create a step, bring the first one. Let's have it as close to the query as possible. So it's sum of amount, and it is grouped by close date and year month, if I remember from the query. Notice when you group by year month, this is something we talked about previously, how the date parts get projected using this tilde. So you got the date parts from close date, and we are using the tilde function to project them. All right. This is my first step. I should have named it. So let's actually go back and name it and call it ops. And it is SAQL. That was not my intention, but it's fine in this case. That's fine. It could be any normal step. Now I need another step, cases. So let's create step from case. Right there, cases. Now, since I already have opportunity on the dashboard, I don't need to create cases, hit save, and then create the third step. I can actually use this because already the other data set is there. And again, get it as close as possible. If you want, you can get the count. It doesn't matter, count of rows, but again, just notice the close date is a little bit different. The reason, if you go to SAQL, first notice it's called cases, but the API name is case. And the close date is closed date. Keep that in mind, closed date versus close without the date. Now, the best way to do this exercise, or one way, is just go to the file that's provided from the link. That file is called Advanced Exercises Syntax Files. Advanced Exercises Syntax File, open it. And if you can click on this. If you scroll down, you are going to see right here around line 66 metrics from different data sets on the same chart. Now I am using exactly the same data sets, so the API names of the fields are the same. Close date coming from opportunity and closed with a D coming from case. So let's just copy this whole thing, 66 all the way to 69, control copy, go back to the query, and we can just replace all of this. So again, I have the data set, it's the same name. This is very important. It's the same name I'm using on my dashboard or in this org case. So the first result is grouping Q1, match Q1, close date, year, month from opportunity owner, full with the case, close date, year and month. So again, it's gonna do a full match. And let me just take back to this spreadsheet. Let me give you an example what we're trying to do here. So this is opportunity close date. Let's call it close date. And this could be the case closed date. Now notice this can be 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, and so on. And case close date might be 3, 1, starts from here, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1. So there are no dates here. So when I do the first group, I'm getting all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. I'm gonna get 6 rows. So we are gonna get something like 1, 1. Okay, this is null, no problem. 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1. When we say full right here, it's gonna bring us all 6 rows. Now that is in memory. It's just waiting. They are available. Because in the next statement, the projection for each result generate, we decided, or in this case, it's decided, only show me the close date year from opportunity owner account. So I'm getting only these ones. So if I go back to my spreadsheet, although I have the full, it depends how you project. I'm getting now only these ones. Sorry, only these ones right here. Why? Because I did not mention closed with a D date in this projection. I'm only getting the Q1. If I had mentioned Q2, then I would have gotten the whole 6. If I had mentioned only Q2, then I would have gotten only these. So keep that in mind. That's also flexibility on the query. And then I'm just doing a sum of amount and counting the cases across the opportunities. In this case, for example, I'm only going to get 1 or 1. If I had more than 1, then that would have counted or aggregated to that count. So if I hit run query, notice I'm going to get again close date from opportunity, sum of amount, and number of cases during that month of the opportunity. Again, very neat way. And what happens now, if I switch back to charts or maybe a combo chart, nice combo chart, I have now 2 metrics from 2 data sets on the same chart. So again, we can call it 2 metrics from 2 data sets on same chart, for example. And you could have already seen that there are some months. Notice that the opportunity months here don't have any cases, but again, because we projected these from opportunity, we got these months without the cases. So this is a very important exercise. You will probably hit this at one point in time. If you are able, on the other hand, to say, nope, I'm only going to show the opportunities, that's fine for my, you can change the chart type from here. So this is opportunities. And for cases, I'm just going to create a step from cases, count of rows, close date, year, month, cases. And you can actually put this as a line. So if you're able to just satisfy the requirement with 2 different charts, one's coming from one data set, one's coming from another data set, so you don't need SAQL in this case at all. But if you need them something on the same chart, then you do need that SAQL as we did in the exercise. So you can save this. SAQL for 2 metrics, 2 DS on same chart.